to our MBTI video series called What's My Personality Type? Today we're going to be talking about the ESTP type, or the adventurer. So let's find out more about ESTPs. First, ESTPs are extroverts. That's what the E in ESTP stands for. So ESTPs gain energy from their outer world and from interactions with others. They like to talk through their ideas with others first and then process them internally. And they tend to be very sociable and expressive. So with ESTPs, they tend to share what they're thinking pretty clearly and readily. ESTPs are sensors. That's what the S in ESTP stands for. They like to observe the specifics and details in order to get to the big picture. And they want facts and data because they are real and verifiable. ESTPs don't like pie-in-the-sky kinds of ideas that aren't verifiable through facts. They understand information best through their practical experience, so they like to experience things in order to have a good grasp of what that means. And finally, they focus on the present and trust their past experiences. When asked to plan for the future, they're going to use what they've experienced in the past to help them decide what to do in the future. ESTPs are thinkers. That's what the T in ESTP stands for. They make decisions based on logic and analysis. They often use cause and effect reasoning to come to a decision. And they strive for an objective standard of truth. So they can often be seen as blunt and tough-minded because they aren't going to be careful about the way that they say things to other people. Decisions to thinkers are not about feelings or about whether they like you or not. They're really about getting to the truth. And also, they believe that being fair means treating everyone equally. So they will treat everyone the same regardless of their individual needs or circumstances, because to them, applying rules equitably and fairly means applying those rules the same to everyone. And finally, ESTPs are perceivers. That's what the P in ESTP stands for. They prefer to live in a flexible, spontaneous, and adaptable way. They want to experience life rather than control it. So they don't like to make a lot of plans because plans feel very confining to perceivers. They are open to and often seek out change in their lives. And they put off making decisions because they often get their best ideas under pressure. So sometimes perceivers can look like they are procrastinating, but really they are waiting until they feel that sense of pressure, and they are giving themselves time to collect and gather all of the information they need to make a good decision before they actually make a decision. ESTPs are fairly rare in the type world. They only represent about 4.3% of the total population, so there aren't that many ESTPs out there. And we call ESTPs the adventurers of the type world. That's because they are driven to be active and have new experiences. They love to go out and seek adventure and new things to do every day. They thrive on competition, and they often see interactions in their world as games that they want to win. And finally, ESTPs are resourceful troubleshooters who take action in the moment to find creative solutions to unexpected problems. ESTPs are those people that you want to have around in a crisis because they're not going to be too focused on what the plan was or on the fact that things aren't going the way they expected. They're able to troubleshoot what's happening in the moment and come up with a creative solution to whatever that problem or challenge is. ESTPs have several core beliefs. They believe that ideas are meant to be shared and that good decisions require data. So they're going to rely on data and facts to make decisions, and then they're going to share those. They believe that the past informs the future, and so they're going to rely on their past experiences when planning for the future. And they believe that logic is more important than values or emotions, because logic is an objective way to make a decision. They believe that there is usually one right answer to a problem or a question, and that right answer is the correct answer for everyone. And they believe that life is all about experiences, that it's meant to be experienced rather than controlled, and that success is a result of our actions. So taking action is very important to ESTPs. Finally, ESTPs believe that happiness comes from being active. ESTPs have certain superpowers. These are things that they do better than all of the other types. So ESTP superpowers include solving problems in the moment. As I said, they tend to be very good at being able to read a situation as it's happening and figure out the best possible way to solve the problem or meet the challenge, and they don't get bogged down in the fact that things aren't going the way they originally anticipated. They trust their ability to just solve a problem in the moment. Another superpower of ESTPs is spontaneity. They're able to go with the flow and spontaneously decide what to do in the moment based on what's happening around them. And they embrace that spontaneity. They love being able to do things on the fly and do things based on whatever is happening around them. They can adjust quickly to changes in their environment. Also, taking action is definitely an ESTP superpower. ESTPs really believe that happiness comes from being active, and so they like to take action. Often they can take action without really having to think it through. They just seem to know what needs to happen in the moment. And finally, an ESTP superpower is controlling their bodies. And what I mean by this is that ESTPs have this almost supernatural ability to control how their bodies respond in the moment. They have a really innate ability to manage their physical environment. So ESTPs tend to be very good athletes or dancers. They just have this ability to move their body fluidly without really having to think about it. It's almost as though they can control their bodies by reacting to whatever is happening and bypassing the need to think about and tell their bodies what to do. But all types also have kryptonite, or things that really bother them and can derail them or take them off track. For ESTPs, their kryptonite includes rigid routines. They definitely don't like having to follow repetitive or rigid routine day after day. They like change and they like new experiences, and if they're forced into a rigid routine, they typically rebel. They also find long-term planning to be very onerous. They want to be able to be flexible in the moment, and if they have to make too many long-term plans, that prevents them from having that flexibility in the moment. And being managed is a big issue for ESTPs. And what I mean by that is that ESTPs don't like other people telling them what to do. They really want to have the freedom to make their own decisions as they go. And so they don't want to be managed by a boss or by a significant other or by a friend or by a parent. They really want that independence and freedom to make their own decisions. And finally, lack of logic in decision making from others is definitely kryptonite to ESTPs. They don't like it when other people rely on their feelings or their emotions to make decisions. That seems very subjective to ESTPs and can cause them to overreact in a negative way. So, ESTPs in a nutshell. To sum up ESTPs, first, ESTPs are people of action who learn by doing and experiencing. So that's how they approach their lives. They approach their lives by taking action and by experiencing their lives. And ESTPs seek fun and adventure in their lives and their work. If they don't have fun, if they're not having adventures in their lives, they can easily get bored. ESTPs combine their analytical problem-solving skills with a laid-back approach to quickly meet the needs of the moment. So they use their analysis and problem-solving skills with this ability to kind of be laid back and flexible, and that allows them to really meet the needs of the moment. And finally, ESTPs have faith in and rely on their own resourcefulness, and they trust that they'll be able to handle whatever comes their way. So I hope that you've enjoyed this overview of ESTPs. It's been brought to you by Willow Training. Subscribe below to see more videos like this. And thanks so much for watching. We hope to see you again soon.